A huge question that we get asked, okay, is what is story marketing for builders? Builders think, hey, all I need to do is I need to build. That's all I need to do. If I build good stuff, if I build nice projects will come. Okay. What is story marketing for builders?
It's a great question. And it's one of those that I need a lot of time to answer. And there's so many ways to go about it. Okay. But today I'm going to go one specific way. And I think the biggest problem that builders sit with is that they always need to compete with other builders. Sometimes it's hard standing out from the other guy down the street. What makes you different? Okay, that's one thing. And then the second thing, sometimes, and this is a deeper level, where people might come across your business and then go, man, I love what I see with this builder. But then like 2 years later, when they're ready to build, they've forgotten who the builder is.
Yeah.
I remember that one day it stood out, but then they forgot him.
Yeah, it actually, I've got a pretty personal story. I won't go too deep into this, but that's a real relevant one. We moved into a family home recently and just doing a few things at home and then also, we had those massive storms in December. Like, was it Christmas or was it New Year's Day?
It was Christmas Day, Christmas evening, yeah.
And the trees just got ripped up. Like, I'm in Palm Beach.
There was a tornado.
Oh, yeah, tornado on the Gold Coast. That's insane. Anyway, so I'm trying to call, like, electricians. And naturally, I've got a lot of friends that are electricians, right? So, and like, I'm literally, like, trying to call all of them and no one's answering. And then, I finally got through and booked someone in for the next day. And then that guy came. He fixed up my thing. There was, like, one of the switches or whatever got broken in the switchboard. And anyway, cut a long story short, after that I was driving around. I'm like, oh my goodness, one of my like really, really good friends that live a few streets away is an electrician and he could have probably helped me. And I forgot.
Yeah. And we're going to get into why.
Yeah.
That's very important. But before we do, a little story to kind of just build some context around this. And I'll start it off with a question. Have you ever been to a conference and then, man, there's awesome speakers and you're just so inspired?
Yeah, you get amped up.
You get amped up and then you get home and then, like, my wife's like,
what'd you learn?
Yeah, what was so good about it? And you're just like, it was good. This happens to me a lot.
Yeah.
So I can't remember what happened. Anyway, so the story was, this was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. We went to a 10X conference in Vegas in the US.
Which time? We've been a few times.
Yeah, I think it was the first or the second time.
Okay.
Anyway, we went, and that one specific day, there was about 6 speakers that came to present. And each person comes on a different topic, and super inspiring, man. Every time you're like, man, that's so cool. They've done this in their life, etc. And on that day, I remember there was one person that came and shared, and it was just like, I remember, like, he went through this, started telling this whole story. He didn't even go into the product at all or whatever. He just told a story.
Do you know who it was?
Russell Brunson.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so Russell Brunson is the guy, if I sum him up, he's the funnel hacking guy.
Yeah.
And so marketing specific. But he came and he told the whole story. And the most interesting part of that whole experience in that when he told the story towards the end, he then came up with the product and he's like, who wants to enroll today? So who basically wants to sign up by paying and investing money today?
Man, I remember that.
You remember that?
Insane.
I remember looking around and there was like, I can't remember how many people it was.
Well, just before you say that, some of the other speakers, because this is the thing a lot about these conferences, and I think this is why some people don't like these conferences. They feel like it's just like a sales pitch, right?
Yep.
And a lot of this was like that.
Yeah, and it's a hype up.
Yeah, it's a hype up.
Feel good in the moment.
Yeah, there were all these people and they were like sales stuff, and you wouldn't even notice anything. Like, everyone just stays there, like stays in their seats, ready for the next speaker. But this one was different.
Yeah. So he told his story. And what he did was he basically used examples of similar people that were sitting in that crowd that day, 20,000 people or whatever. And he would use story to kind of go through the problems that everyday person has trying to market their business. And he kind of went through this whole thing, overcoming objections, etc. Anyway, long story short, he came to that moment, he asked, who's going to invest. And I remember just looking around. I thought
Yeah.
there might be like a few people standing up, but it was like, it felt like 70% of the crowd stood up, walked up with a form to basically say, here, I'm investing into this. Here's my credit card details.
It was crazy. It was thousands and thousands of people.
Crazy. And I remember that day, and I thought to myself, what? How did he just do that? The other guys on the day were amazing at presenting, also had a sales pitch, and also had a call to action at the end saying, do you want to invest?
And also really well known. Like it's well known.
More well known probably than that guy.
Yeah.
But why did he get so many people standing up? And the biggest thing was a story.
Okay.
And coming back to our topic today, story marketing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that's the big epiphany that I had there. But then the second thing is, coming back to the problem, and how does this relate to builders, is that they're always having to compete with other builders. And it's the same thing with those conference speakers that day.
Yep.
They were all competing with each other because people only have that much money and they've got to choose who they're going to invest with.
Yeah.
So really, the person with the best story that day won.
Yeah. The best story that resonated with those people as well.
Yes.
And the story that spoke to them and their desires and
Took
their
them on a
problems
journey
and their false beliefs. And yeah, it's not just about telling a story. Anyone can tell a story of like, yeah, I was at a barbecue yesterday and this happened and that. But really, story is a craft in itself.
Yes.
And
it's planned. It is, I don't want to say it's planned out, but it's thought about.
Yeah.
So it is really going, okay, who am I talking to? Who do I want to impact or have them come on board with what I'm offering as a solution? Understanding their problem. And then forming the story that's going to relate to them to make them go, open their eyes up.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so when it comes back to builders, yeah, why is story so important for them? I mean, you just mentioned that they all have a lot of competition, so most builders do have a lot of competition in their area and so on. Yeah, why story then for them?
If you ask me now, and I'm going to answer it with the story I just told. If you ask me now who were the other speakers on that day, I really can't remember.
Wow.
The only person I can remember is the guy that told the story. So what this means is story it's got a lot higher probability of someone remembering something.
Yeah.
Now, the biggest thing we've got to realize, if I relate this back to builders, when they are marketing, you might be marketing your building business, but the person you're marketing to that sees that might not be ready for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And when it comes to that time, they might not even remember you.
Yeah, kind of like me with my friend electrician.
Yeah. But if you told a story that resonated so deep and so hard, so specifically for that person, they'll remember you. Just as I just remember the story of what happened that day.
Yeah. I mean, that's a long time ago. That was the first 10X we went to.
2018.
Yeah.
I think it was 2018.
I think we've been to 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And that was the first one. Yeah, that was crazy.
So story marketing, what it basically is like planting seeds. And this is how you can approach story marketing through your business. And this is what we do for our builders. Everything we do through storytelling. And when we put this out in front of the right audience that our builders work with, we're planting seeds. We don't know when this client's going to be ready. They might be ready now, or they might be ready in 6 months or a year or 3 years or 4 years or whatever. So the whole idea it's a long-term approach. And the reason why you use story and not just statements through your marketing is there's a better chance that the person will remember you.
Yeah. I actually read this thing on Twitter the other day. I'll read it out. How to break beliefs, stories. How to get attention, stories. How to keep attention, stories. How to change minds, stories. See a pattern? Now, the thing is, builders struggle with a lot of these things, right? People have these beliefs, a lot of different beliefs. They have beliefs about the building industry. They have beliefs about builders. They have beliefs about you as a building company and what they perceive you as, whether good or bad. They are not aware of you. You don't have their attention. If you do get their attention, they probably don't, they forget about you. you don't keep their attention. And that's a huge battle right there. You think your competition is your enemy. It's not. It's the lack of awareness. It's the lack of emotional connection that your target market has to you. And a lot of this can just be solved with storytelling. I mean, if you look at anything, like any good book that you've read, any movie you've watched, any conversation you've had at a barbecue, you'll remember the ones that was like actually a story. I know I do this a lot. Like when I listen to a book on Audible, the author will just give a whole bunch of statements, and there might be a few good bullet points, and I'm like, okay, cool, I've got to remember that. And then you like forget about it, and then you start thinking about something else, and then you zone out for like 5 minutes. You're like, oh crap, I haven't been listening at all. But the times when you actually tune into that book, it's because he's telling some sort of story.
Yeah.
It's something I want to do more of. Like even in these podcasts, like sometimes we make statements and everything else like that. And we should just be telling more stories as well.
Yeah. And that's it. There's that psychologist that he has proven that, and they've done scientific research on this, where they've actually scanned people's brains.
Oh,
so Yuri Hassan, and so someone telling a story and someone listening.
Yeah.
And they might be at different times. So the storyteller will be, let's say they're actually scanning his head right now, and they get this waveform. And then they go and they, at a different time, different location, they'll scan another person's head.
While listening to it.
Just before they do. And then there's a waveform. And then when he starts listening to it, it starts forming into the same waveform as the storyteller. So what does that say? Well, basically, there's just something about storytelling. It's come from the first days when the world was created. It's always been there, and it gets people in sync. And that's why stories are so powerful.
Yeah.
And so when clients come to us, that's why we take them through this whole journey of vision and story development.
Yeah,
really
story development.
Yeah, really understanding where they're going, and then really getting deep on their story. And then they're able to take that, and obviously we create the stories which we can then put in front of the right audience. So while you're sleeping,
to get their attention, to keep their attention, break down beliefs, false beliefs, and stand out from competitors.
That's it. So that when a person watches that, maybe in a few years' time, they'll recount and they'll go, oh yeah, I remember seeing that one guy that told us his story about him and his dad starting the building business years ago. And that will still resonate to that person. And they go, you know what? I'll give him a call.
Yeah, I mean, a good call to action, like if you're a builder, just go on the BizVideo Instagram and just look at like some of the example stories that we post there, like of other builders. And you'll see things like that. Like we bring in like that, we extract that out of the builder. Like the builder would have never thought about telling, the story and like specific little key parts of it. And then, those are the things that stick with them. I've heard this countless times, like builders that come to us, like clients that sign up with us and they go, yeah, I saw so-and-so's story up in like, on the Gold Coast, like this is, let's say, a Melbourne builder, and they're like, I want that builder to build for me. And I'm like, you're a builder, mate. Why don't you just build for yourself? But anyway, it's just that powerful. Yeah, so.
And a lot of people will come to us going, you know what, I don't think I've got a story. There's nothing unique about me.
Yeah.
But the thing is, everybody has a story.
Yeah.
And that's always what we say. And it's just like, just come on the journey and we can take you on it.
On that note, right, so Dad. Right, so for everyone listening to this, Andre and I were brothers. We started BizVideo together. Anyway, our dad, right, he's a pilot. And you know what's fascinating? You know how we always ask Dad, it's like, Dad, like tell us some stories. So he was a fighter pilot back in the day, before I was born and while like in my younger years. And you know how we like go and sit at barbecues, and then he starts talking to someone that like in the same generation as him. Like JP's dad, for example, JP, our brother-in-law, we'll all sit together and they'll start talking about like the good old days or whatever, right? Talking about like these stories. And then Dad will start telling all these crazy stories. And you know how we just sit there and we're just like, oh my goodness, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But then other times when we go, Dad, like, tell us stories. And he's like, there's not much. You're like, and then we try and get it out of him.
Yeah.
I remember that us being kids, like we'll try.
100%.
We'll
So
try
many times.
We'll try and pull it out of him, and he's just like, yeah. No, it was good. Like, we flew. Yeah. And then when he starts telling these stories, like in his mind, he thinks he doesn't have a story.
Yeah, that's
worth telling his kids.
That's right. Yeah, it's very interesting. But yeah, I mean, bringing it back to it. What is story marketing? And yeah, if I ask you that, what is story marketing?
Well, it's all of the above that we've literally been talking about in this podcast. Look, I think it's something the builders need to look more into. If this is your first time hearing about story marketing as a builder, or even if you think you do story really well, definitely look into it more. I know for us, we look into this more and more every day, educate ourselves. We've been doing this whole story game for like 12 years now, and I can promise you we can go even further.
Yeah. So
it doesn't matter how good you think you are in terms of storytelling and the power of it for your business, like go deeper into it. Yeah.
Grenade, there's builders listening to this right now and they're going, cool, okay, well, I want to explore more of this story marketing that we've been talking about. What's a good way of going about that?
Well, we've written a book called The Ultimate Builder Marketing Guide. Okay, and it's a book, and we've got it in like PDF form and also audio form. So what I would suggest is just look for the link somewhere below this episode and download that. We go into depth in terms of how storytelling works in line with your whole marketing system as a whole. And yeah, in the PDF, we've got a lot of graphs and images and stuff to make it like click for builders, to make it as simple as possible. But then also there's the audio version, so you can in the car or wherever listen to it. So I would highly suggest jumping on that. It's the feedback we've been getting from it is amazing, and it's our last 12 years or 12 years. How many years have we been doing this? Yeah, whatever. Packed into a PDF to make it as simple as possible for builders to understand. So yeah, I would jump on that, and but yeah, thank you for another episode, and yeah,
thanks, Grenade.
Let's tell better stories.
Yes, all of us.